It's a bonus edition of the Book Club for Kids. Hi, I'm Kitty Felde. Last week, we discussed Cathedral of Bones by A.J. Steiger. This week, we continue the conversation with our writer. So, A.J., you write in so many different genres. YA, sci-fi, middle grade fantasy. How do you shift from one to the other?
I've always written in a variety of genres. Like, I've never had one that I was really stuck in, so it's pretty easy for me to switch between modes, you know. I guess for contemporary, I tend to use first person more, and for fantasy, I tend to use third person more, so maybe that's how I shift gears mentally.
Writing fantasy involves that extra step of world building. Does it take a lot longer to write a fantasy?
It doesn't really take me longer. It's just a different process, you know. It's I've always kind of naturally just invented worlds in my head, and it feels just as natural for me to live in fantasy worlds as it does for me to live in the real world. So I guess it's not like more effort per se, but it's just different. It's a different process. I think the first time I ever sent a book into a publisher, I was like 9 years old, and the book was like Roz the Black Dog, and it was about just, you know, true story about a dog I met in the neighborhood. So ever since I was a kid, I've been wanting to be a published author, so the process is something I've always done.
How many rejections did you get before your first book was published?
Hundreds, which is a common story for writers. You know, it's dealing with rejection is part of the process. My first novel that I got published was the sci-fi dystopian Mindwalker, and when I got some feedback back from the agent, she had some questions for me as far as like, would you be willing to do this kind of revision or that kind of revision? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And from there, it all kind of moved pretty fast. Like, I signed a contract, and then like I had a deal with a publisher just like less than a month later, I think. So it was kind of a whirlwind, but it was very exciting.
Well, how did you decide to write Cathedral of Bones as a middle grade novel?
When I first started writing Cathedral of Bones, the characters were a couple years older, and it was a young adult novel, and it was my agent who said, you know, this kind of feels structurally more like a middle grade book to me, and so I ended up aging the characters down and making some revisions along those lines. So it didn't start out as a middle grade book, but it ended up kind of evolving into that. And I think it does work as a middle grade book.
What's the best piece of writing advice you have ever gotten?
Oh gosh, I don't know if this is like advice anyone gave me, but this is advice that I would give to other people, is just, you know, to keep at it. It's very much a game of persistence. It's, you know, being there when your moment comes along. Just keep at it, you know, keep writing every day, keep trying different stuff.
Thanks, AJ. We have interviews with dozens of other writers at our website, bookclubforkids.org, on our Writers on Writing page. The website is also where you can sign up for our newsletter, full of free tips about how to get a kid to pick up a book. And speaking of books, the second season of the Fina Mendoza Mysteries podcast will premiere in May. Subscribe now so you won't miss any of the sneak previews. But if you cannot wait for season 2, you can read all about what happens in the book State of the Union, published by Chesapeake Press. Fina is on the hunt for a mysterious bird that poops on the president's head during the State of the Union address, and that bird might just have a secret message just for Fina. That's State of the Union, and I'm Kitty Felde. Thanks so much for listening.